a Negro, black as the night is black, black like the depths of my Africa. I've been a slave. Caesar told me to keep his doorsteps clean. I brushed the boots of Washington. I've been a worker. Under my hand, the pyramids arose. I made mortar for the Woolworth building. I am a Negro. Black as the night is black. Black like the depths of my Africa.
For white Americans, Africa has always been seen in images of travel and adventure, savage natives and exotic customs. Black Americans also had their images, images drawn from cartoons, movies, and our history books that made them feel ashamed of their past and cut them off from any contact with Africa since that first dreadful voyage to the New World.
I'm Hal Walker. This is the story of a return trip, a voyage to Africa by three young people who had never been there before. We filmed their experiences, the people they met, and their reactions. It's not a typical story. They're youngsters of differing backgrounds and temperaments. What they did share in common is that they are black. Their journey started in Washington, D.C. at the Ingram Congregational Church.
When we're talking about Negroes, there's one thing to talk about.
Black people, we have all learned now.
Well, black people.
Now, look now, we all know our heritage. So the Negro has fallen out. We are black.
Well, this is the name that people identify us with as Negroes.
No, it's whether how you identify yourself, not how anybody else identifies
well, how do you know how I
This is what I'm trying to find out. I know by the way you say Negro.
Okay, what do you mean? I feel proud when I say black or Negro. I feel proud. Maybe you don't feel proud, but I do.
Every week, a group of students and dropouts, working teenagers and the unemployed came together. Not for fun and games, but to discuss what black kids must discuss in this age of ours.
Let me ask you a question. Is there anybody in here consider themselves free? Free. You are not free until every black man in America is free. This is the thing people don't realize. Sure, you might verbally, you might be free, but until you're grown.
Nobody's free. White people aren't free either. You have white people in the ghettos.
We're not talking about white people in the ghettos or in Appalachia. We're talking about our people.
Well, then you'd have to combine them both. That's right. You're not searching just for freedom of the Negro, the freedom of man.
The discussion turned toward Africa.
It's not a disgrace if my mother comes from Africa, you know, because a long time ago, I guess about, 10 years ago, you know, when they call you black, everybody feel all bad and ready to fight and everything, you know. I mean, when they call me black, what the heck, you know, now don't, you know, I guess we're trying to break away from this word Negro anyway, you know, so black, it sounds good to me now. I mean, a long time when I was small, it sounded, you know, like I was ready to fight, tell the truth, somebody called me black.
The Negro is about the only race of people who accepted slavery so peacefully. And that Negroes are people who are really ashamed of themselves. And that the Africans believe that they're black and they're proud of being black.
You can't say that the Negro accepted slavery peacefully because it was the African that was enslaved first. And as it went on, then, you know, they were called Negroes and everything, and they really had no other choice but to accept slavery because they saw no other way to go.
They didn't know it then, but three of these youngsters were to leave for Africa within 1 month. Mattie Johnson, Gail Harris, and Stephen Adams. 17-year-old Mattie Johnson is a junior at Dunbar High School and is studying to be a secretary. Gail Harris is 17. A graduate of Notre Dame Academy, and is studying to become a fashion designer. Stephen Adams is also 17, attends Eastern High School. He expects to go on to college and major in psychology. On May 22nd, we followed these three young people to Ghana in West Africa. It would be an adventure, but it would be more than that. It was a trip home to their ancestral roots, to a dark and fearful past of savagery and slavery, or so they had been told too often. Was there more than that? Was there anything in the past to be proud of? And what about today? Do we have anything in common with them? More and more black Americans are asking these questions. A people deprived of the past are on a voyage in search of that past.
That looks like the suburbs of Washington over there. Maybe up in Georgetown or something.
Why Ghana? The great-great-grandmother of Gail Harris might have been a Fulani from northern Africa, known for their fine features. Mattie Johnson's great-great-grandmother may have been a Fanti, who were to lead many of the slave mutinies in the New World. Stephen Adams' ancestor could have been an Ashanti chief from the Gold Coast, today known as Ghana. For all black Americans, who they are and where they have come from is shrouded in silence and in mystery. When our students arrived in Accra, the capital of Ghana, they moved in with local families.
Hi, Steve. Welcome to Ghana.
Immediately, they plunged into the life around them. Like tourists everywhere, they tasted the food.
That's not fair. See?
They went shopping.
You don't like this one? Me, I do. They can't speak English. I don't know what to do. But you do speak, huh? A little. Go to school for it? No.
And wherever they traveled, they spoke to Ghanaians of all ages, searching for a common language.
Tell him I'm one of him. You know, I'm like him. And I'm part of his people. Can you believe it? Can you believe I belong to the same race you belong to? Is it hard to believe?
On May 29th, they left for the Cape Coast Castle. Built by the Swedes in 1652, today it makes picture postcards for tourists, and children play among vestiges of its sinister past. It was a temporary prison for as many as 1,700 Africans, enslaved by the Portuguese, the Spanish, the French, the Danes, the Dutch, and the English. They were kept here while enough slaves were rounded up to make the voyage to the New World worthwhile. They came chained 2 by 2, left leg to right leg, from 1,000 villages and tribes. Some captives made forced marches of 500 miles to the coast, where they were examined like cattle. In the dungeon, the male and female slaves were kept separately.
This magazine and dungeons. Well, here they kept the female slaves. See? And they have to stay here for about a week, waiting for the ship.
Those 2 holes provided the only light and air. They were chained to the walls and slept on the bare, damp ground.
Well then, once they enter this room here, they would never see outside anymore, where we come from. Before they see outside, then they are in ship. See? The other side, there is a gateway to the sea. At any time that gate is opened, that means ship has come.
One trader wrote, "The Negroes were so loath to leave their own country that they leaped out of the ship into the sea and kept underwater until they were drowned." W.E.B. Du Bois wrote, "Raphael painted, Luther preached, Corneille wrote, and Milton sang. And through it all, for 400 years, the dark captives wound to the sea amid the bleaching bones of the dead. For 400 years, the sharks followed the scurrying ships. For 400 years, America was strewn with the living and dying millions of a transplanted race.
I have great pleasure in welcoming our visitors from America.
On the Cape Coast, at the Infantsipim Secondary School, our students had their first meeting with Ghanaian students and their teacher, Mr. A. Nicholson. None of these discussions was typical. More questions were raised than answered. But what Ghanaian and American did discover is that many centuries and thousands of miles could not be bridged without effort.
Of what benefit the African history you are interested in learning?
Well, for one thing, this history will tell us where we come from. Because, well, before coming here, I think I had this basic stereotype, which is in America, of what you see on the Tarzan movie. That's basically it.
And what do you think now?
I think this is a beautiful place.
How beautiful? Just how beautiful?
Well, for one thing, I'm glad to see that that the black man here has political power. Although, as of yet, I see no economic power, but political power, yes.
We know that the condition of the African in America is not even that of a second-rate citizen. You can't even, what's the use of not being able to sit in a restaurant and have a cook?
We can sit
So
in
what's
a
the image
restaurant.
you're boosting?
We can
You know what
sit in a
you imagine
restaurant.
or what is happening?
Oh, just a bit. He told you that your condition was not a second-rate citizen in America.
Yes.
You tell us that's not true.
That's right.
The man say you're not even free.
Because
Kennedy say you're not free yet. You're still a slave.
that was before he died. He's been dead for how long?
The condition in what? Listen, the condition in what that leads to the riots. Please remember that President Johnson's commission said that white racism is responsible for all the upheavals, the injustices, the economic injustices and oppression. White racism and prejudice. You say that you can drink a Coke in any place. You're now fighting to get the right to drink a Coke.
I beg your pardon. We fought
And
to
you can
get
drink
the right.
anywhere
We can get it.
to
You
get the
see,
white
if a
people.
man owns a store, if a white man owns a store, you can go into that store. I mean, he can't keep you out. The point is to get the service. How do you get the service? You get to that man's mind to make him know that you're just as good as he is. That's where the freedom comes in. The freedom to go into a restaurant, yes, but to be treated like anyone else. Equality along with freedom.
And you have equality now in
No,
America.
we don't. That's what we're fighting for now. We've got some of the laws, you see. Now we've got to go to the minds and get what goes along with the laws.
Nevertheless, you've got to go to the hearts of the white America.
That's right. You see, we're
You have to go and
established.
feel his heart.
Yes. You
that's
see,
right.
in the Bill of Rights, you have certain rights, you see. When it comes to us, they had to get another amendment for us to make us citizens. When all of us were born there, you see. So we have the laws now. We're citizens. First-class citizens, if you want to say that.
You're first-class citizens.
As far as the law is concerned.
But what is the law if it's not carried out?
Well, that's what
That is
we're trying to get it carried out. And the situation here is just as bad as the situation in America.
That's an insult to Africa. You are nothing in America, and you're made to feel nothing. Here you are free, and
We
you're
are not.
accepted as equal.
I beg
You're
you.
not
If you're
supposed-
free, you have, okay, there's something, maybe we don't understand it. Maybe we don't understand. Wait a minute. You've insulted us. Why do you get insulted when we insult you? At least we're trying to find out about it. You know, you're sitting up here and you're saying, you're this and you're that, and that's it. Okay, now let me say this. I don't know if it's a custom here, it's something we don't understand or what, but we stayed in families here, and we've noticed that there are servants.
Slaves.
Yes, who to us are treated as slaves, you see. They're made to get up early in the morning.
They found slavery in Africa, boys. Please listen. Continue.
They're made to get up early in the morning, go to bed late at night. They work all day, you see.
And we don't understand this, you see, because we've been fighting against this, against slavery. And this is what we consider, maybe not as the same form as it was in America. You know, you don't buy these people, or you don't carry on a slave trade. But to us, this is a form of slavery. And wait a minute. This is Ghanaians, to us, enslaving Ghanaians, black people enslaving black people. Now, maybe we don't understand this. Maybe it's something that you'll have to explain to us. But we go back to America, and we say, you know, they have slaves over there. That's stereotyping, and you'd be insulted, wouldn't you? All of you, because we don't understand what's going on, right? Is that true? Come on, react to it.
I'll react to you in a minute.
Okay? All right, then you explain this to me. But you remember that if certain things I see in Africa, at least I'm seeing them. I'm not reading about them, I'm seeing them.
But you can't equate this with what has been in America. You're telling us you found slavery here. It's a stereotype.
We didn't say we found slavery here. We said we think our viewpoint of a mild form.
Because you know what slavery is. This isn't slavery.
Let me ask you.
It's an insult to us again.
Well, tell us what it is. Don't tell us what it's not.
No, but how can you say it's slavery?
Well, why are they treated this way?
Tell us what it is.
Are they not members of the family?
No, they're not.
Well, the African is by nature kind. You can have people in your house who aren't your relatives in any way, but you got enough food to feed them, look after them, or the rest. But you know there's differential love between...
Serve you.
Not serve you.
That's what they're doing. They're servants or slaves. That's what we think.
Slaves. Well, you can look at it that way if you want to, but they are not slaves. You know what slavery means, and this isn't slavery.
Wait, what you think?
All right, look here. Now, what you're talking about is slavery when there's a chain on your ankle and a whip on your back. Brother, that's not the only slavery you can get. And I don't know if you're going to get insulted by this or not, but the reason we're talking about it now is to break away this. There's a whole lot of things that I might say to you that's insulting, that's wrong. There's a whole lot of things you could say to me that might be insulting, that's wrong. But the reason we're talking now is to get a mutual understanding between both of us. But see, we didn't have the slightest idea of how you thought before we came over here. Our moral support doesn't help you if you don't know you have it. That's the reason we're over here now, to bring those ties closer together. We have to obtain our freedom. We have to help build Africa up because this is our homeland.
At Senfi Village, Stephen Adams is installed as an honorary Ashanti chieftain. The ceremony as Steve presents himself to the chief. With a sword, he swears an oath of allegiance.
Say Osampa.
I do swear that if you call me in the morning, afternoon, or evening, I will not turn my back. I will not tell lies, and I will be honest to my people. He is named Kwesi Ababu, the child who returns home. In Mother Africa, Steve began to learn the traditions of his people.
When I was installed as a chief, one thing I was very proud of, that I was accepted by the Ashanti, and I knew that this was a sacred ceremony which they were doing, and I was proud of it.
We have been told that we have offered nothing to the world. to 21 civilizations and we offered nothing. And this has been deliberately fostered, this lie, so we cannot have confidence in ourselves. Africa gave the world mathematics. Africa gave the world its first alphabet. To say this, you would ask for substantiation. Why are men afraid to say that the Egyptians had black-skinned woolly hair when Herodotus wrote this? When Volney, Count Volney in 1787 saw this with his own eyes. And he said, Herodotus was right. It is African people here. And to think that the people who gave the world its civilization, who gave it its religious and political systems which now govern the universe, to think of these people who gave the world its art and science and even the very use of speech, they are now despised for their sable, that's to say, black skin and woolly hair. I, as an archaeologist, know there's only one culture, human culture. All races have contributed to it. And I would like to see the day in which there's nothing shameful as race. This is the lesson I give to boys. I don't say to make them racist. We did not invent racism. My claim, you cannot be a man unless you know you have created history. You cannot be proud of your race. You cannot be proud of yourself if you do not know. You suffer. All Africans suffer. I have suffered and all Americans suffer because the face of our mother Africa had been given us something hideous.
Throughout history, black men have dreamed about returning to Africa. In the 1920s, Marcus Garvey tried to take America's black bitter millions to their roots. He rallied 3 million blacks together, the biggest back to Africa movement ever. It was Garvey who said, when Europe was inhabited by a race of savages, naked men, heathens, and pagans, Africa was peopled with a race of cultured black men who were masters in art, science, and literature. Men who were cultured and refined. Men who, it is said, were like the gods. The movement failed, and Garvey died forgotten and in disgrace. But for some men, the dream of Africa as an escape and a haven lingered on. Dr. Robert E. Lee is a dentist who moved to Ghana in 1955. Producer Arthur Rabin asked him why he had left America.
My life wasn't so grim in the United States that I would say I missed all my meals. And, I ran into police officers who were brutally attacking me every day. No, I shouldn't say that, but I lived under the shadow of this threat. And I find it disturbed me. And I couldn't function. And I lived a sort of life in a dark room, not knowing where the chairs were and where the footstools were, you see. But I thought it was confined to South Carolina, and that there were other areas in the country where this was not so. And so I left that area, went to another area, and I found that the same thing existed in another subtle way. And so in my experiences, I couldn't find any area where these things fundamentally did not exist. And even though one might say, well, you could overlook these things, but it's not so. These are the fundamental reasons why men want to live, you see. It's why everybody talks about justice and freedom, why it's such a big thing with the philosophers, because this is what fundamentally people want. And I find it extremely difficult to find such a situation and still be alive,
Did you find what you were looking for here? That peace of mind, that serenity, that decent life for the black man?
Well, I would say yes. I found a degree of this peace and serenity that black men don't have in the United States. Because, you see, primarily, I believe that the average black man in the United States thinks that it is the blackness, or it is white racialism that prevents him from performing at a certain level, from pursuing certain ambitions, accomplishing certain endeavors. And so, yes, I found that when I became here, I was free from that.
For our students, the change was abrupt, and they experienced a reaction shared by most travelers in a foreign culture. a reaction commonly referred to as cultural shock. In some ways, the contrast was startling. In other ways, they spoke of disappointing similarities.
Well, the first time I was in, I noticed how westernized it was. We think in America that maybe the Africans have really got the beat, you know, they've got the soul. I mean, this is where it originated. And you come over here, and they're really imitating us. The miniskirts, well, that's something else because that's like a fashion. But the wigs, you know, you get the bush, and you see so many women with these red wigs. It's kind of disgusting. It really is. You wonder, are they really proud? They're supposed to be so black, and are they really proud to be black?
I was expecting to find a whole different culture. It looks like everything is patterned after the States. For one thing, you walk down the street and you hear soul music, which we were listening to for about a couple of years ago. You see women with miniskirts on and all this, and I see America as it was about 5 years ago.
I did. When I first arrived in Ghana, my first impression was I thought I would see the ladies walking around in bush, you know, had their hair in a bush, they had native clothes on, and, you know, proud that they was Africans, black. But it's not true. To me, it seemed like they ashamed of their blackness and ashamed of their kinky hair.
Well, it's true. It's true. She would find Africans here, instead of any traditional robes that she thought they would have on, and the short-cut hair that she would see as the image that she thought could be the case, she would find some of the wigs on, yes, some of the miniskirts on, yes. But this is a modern world now, you see, and you have to answer them. The Telstar is carrying the news all over the place. And newspapers and telecommunication much better these days than it was before. And that all Africans don't stay in Africa. I mean, some of them go out of Africa. They go to other parts of the world. And they bring back some of these customs from other parts of the world. Like when some Africans come to the United States, some of the local people around take on some of the things they bring. I've seen Afros walking around with batakali and colorful things that Africans wear. I mean, this is the same kind of exchange going on. And you can answer them in that way, that, well, these people are flexible, they're plastic. You know, they'll try a little bit of all this sort of thing. And if she wants to see traditional African life, then she'll have to go to the traditional area, into the villages where the outside influences are not as strong. You see. But in the towns, it could be like any other town, influenced by all the crossroads of the world. You see.
I saw how the people had to live, you know, some of the people, because, you know, it shocked you, really. I mean, you'd seen it, and you knew that they weren't rich or anything, but to see it, you know, you're just not used to it. And now it doesn't bother me so much. But just riding through, you see so many people in one room, and it seems like they're just sitting around, you know, waiting.
The surroundings and so forth may not be what a person coming from America would be used to. In fact, the conditions under which they live may be very harsh. But you'll find that in spite of the harshness, there is some kind of peace, there's some kind of tranquility, there's some kind of inner contentment that these people have. And I would say that this perhaps is the important thing that you find all over Africa. In spite of all the physical handicaps, the material handicaps that we have. In spite of what may appear to be suffering, they do not allow their physical handicaps, you know, to overcome them as human beings. Therefore, they like to sing and drum and dance.
Drumming and dancing are vital expressions of African culture, and Mattie, Gail, and Stephen entered into the spirit of it. But they were still nagged by that question of slavery.
I didn't like the way they were treating their relatives, I guess. Like, you know, they had to sleep on the floor. I asked the girl, you know, did she want to share my bed? Because, you know, I didn't like it to see, you know, the girl sleeping on the floor, because she wasn't a dog. And she had to eat, you know, after I finished and everything. It was awful.
Well, they're young girls, and they're treated like servants were treated in olden times, as if they're owned. Do this and do that. The girl puts on the woman's shoes for, like slaves, really. You know, they accept it, and that's another thing that seems bad, that they accept it willingly, you know.
Well, I don't know whether they were looking at slavery in a sense. I think they were looking in a mirror and knowing that in their own circumstances, that poor Negroes were usually the domestics, and that the relationship between the owner of the house or the employer and the domestic was usually a rough relationship. And this might be an expression of their experience, either their aunt or their mother or somebody worked under these circumstances. And when they see a similar situation, that is a young person working in a home, and the person who owns the home or who runs the home ordering them around, they interpret that as meaning the same thing. Whereas that may actually be his cousin that he is feeding, because he just doesn't have any work, or he's just come recently from a village somewhere, and it must be taken into this home. He cannot throw the child out. He cannot tell him no. They should look for the strength in the family relations, in the relationship between fathers and sons and daughters and mothers, and come together in a real sense, in a real family sense. We know about those things in USA, but in the Afro's case, see, he's just beginning to develop this family idea, because following the slave era, he didn't really have a family structure as people know family structures. And this youngster might be interested in knowing that there is a real family organization in the African society, and he should pay a little attention to that, how that is.
It has been said that the culture of Africa is its people. In Ghana, Joseph Appiah has been an important writer and political figure for more than a decade. His wife, Peggy, is the daughter of the former British Chancellor of the Exchequer, Sir Stafford Cripps. She is an author and art collector. We asked Mr. Appiah whether African contributions to world culture have been ignored in our history.
Oh, in European history, yes. But I suspect, you see, that this is deliberate. In order to justify the slave trade, in order to justify the existence of colonialism, these myths about Africa had to be created. The result was that all the good things that could have been projected were relegated to the background. And the result, of course, was that these contributions in world history, for instance, our sense of rhythm, our sense of music, our sense of humanism, our sense of involvement in each other's life, all these beautiful aspects were concealed.
Here, whoever you're involved with when you're with them. Even if it's somebody who comes in casually and you start talking about their affairs, you feel they're personally involved in your life and you're personally involved in theirs, and until the situation has been solved, they have a right on you, and you have this really intimate connection with them. And you miss this very much when you go back to Europe, because you feel as though everybody is falling over backwards not to get involved in your personal affairs. Whereas here, if somebody's in trouble, everybody goes along to the house to see what they can do.
You take, for example, funerals. Now, I've been in Europe. I've seen funerals. In some cases, very important persons have died. And I've been appalled by the paucity of people who have gone in to mourn with the family, wife and children. Well, here, every man's death reminds me of my own. And I am compelled, indeed, morally and legally bound, to attend every funeral, especially if it's something that has occurred in my own hometown. Not only give my physical presence, but at the proper time, give my contribution in money to help not only wage their bereavement, but let them know that I am involved, that what has happened to them has more or less happened to me.
And I mean, even if you've had a quarrel in the family, if somebody dies, you all go to the funeral together and behave reasonably to each other. Indeed, funerals are used as opportunities to settle old quarrels. Everybody in the family comes together at a funeral, and there they will discuss over all the problems of the family, and very often make up.
Mrs. Appia, does the attitude toward children in African life show this sense of involvement?
Well, there is no such thing as an unwanted child in Ghana. There is no such thing, the word doesn't exist, as my husband will tell you. The word bastard just doesn't exist. All children are wanted. In fact, in Ashanti, very often, I mean, a woman will say, well, I want my daughter to have children, but I can't be bothered with her having a husband. If they're a wealthy woman, it's terribly important that the daughter should have children. And it is the position of a woman in a Can society who has not had children is very difficult, and you feel really very sorry for them, because they're not respected and there are all sorts of complications.
It's not uncommon for a mother to come to you, a gentleman, and say, look, I like your manners, I like your ways, I like the way you do things, I like your looks and all that. But above all, your manners, your character. I have a beautiful daughter of 18. Do you think you could give me a child by her? And this, in the old days, was considered a great honor. And not many people turned it down.
May I also say here, all mothers in Ghana, as you know, carry their small babies on their back. And this, I think, gives the children a great sense of security. For one thing, they can see what goes on around them. So you don't have this business of the bored baby.
Mr. Appia, do you think that the black American has retained this sense of involvement?
I wouldn't say that they have retained this sense of involvement, And perhaps one can understand why they have not been able to retain at least this one. I know that the music of Africa still runs through them. The rhythm of Africa still runs through them. I can see it by merely looking at them. When it comes to this sense of involvement, I see that, alas, that is something which they have shared, but I believe have shared under pressure of existing circumstances. The environment into which they were thrown demanded that perhaps this should be so. But I am happy to notice that with this risorgimento, this talk of black power, this talk of black beauty, this talk of the African presence, this sense of involvement, I think, is coming back. I think they are now beginning to see that they must stick together, they must make each other's business their business if they are to survive as an entity.
For the students, the trip was nearing its end. They had been away a month and had seen and experienced much that had surprised them, delighted, and shocked them. But one doesn't get to know a country or a culture in 1 month. Yet it was a beginning, a glimpse of a heritage only heard of or dreamt about before. They agreed on many things, disagreed about some. We asked them what they believed they had in common with Africa and Africans.
Well, the only thing I think I have in common with the Africans here, my color, because we are both black, and the place, we both come from Africa. But that's the only thing I think we have in common. Once I knew that we were as one race, but now today, we two races of people, just have the same color and come from the same place.
Well, the American black man has to realize that Africa isn't this utopia for the black man. It also has its problems for the black man. And we have to get this isolation, you know, that the black American has, in which I am a black man in America, and what Africa is all right, so all I have to do is work on America. We have to, the black man in America won't be free until the black man in Africa is free. The black man in Africa won't be free until the black man in America is free.
When I came here, well, when I was in America, I didn't think we had anything really important in common. But except that we both had a struggle, you know, because you do hear the struggles here. But now, I really can't put it into words, but I know that there's something that we both have, that we both need in America and here, the black man. A unity, you know, the heritage, the things that we've gone to are really the same. Technically they are, that we have been suppressed both there and here by our own people, by the white man. And that's something very real, and it's something that you really feel. So I think we have a lot in common there. If we're going to live freely, then we have to live freely as one people. And we have to forget the differences that have occurred over so many hundreds of years and become one people again. And I think we can do it because the feeling is there. Maybe the different things that have happened could have destroyed that feeling, but I think it's still there, and I think it can be helped.
We shall overcome. Trouble is all I see.
Dr. Scott Kennedy is an American poet and dramatist. He was invited by the University of Ghana to help form a national theater movement.
All right, we're ready now.
After his class, we asked Dr. Kennedy about the similarities and differences between black Americans and Africans.
I think after a while, a black person has to begin to be realistic. I know that by that I mean, I know that black folks came from Africa. I know now that we are Americans. We've brought up in the culture, in the American culture. I know there are great similarities, but there are more dissimilarities because the culture is different. I think there is an affinity between the African and the Afro-American, but I think because of the Afro-American's struggles in America, he has taken a longer look at what black means, you see, and I think he has begun the search for identity. I think that in many parts of Africa, that search for identity is not, has not happened yet. I think they're a little behind in that search for identity, behind the Afro-American.
Dr. Lee, do you ever get a feeling that perhaps not only you, but every black man who lives outside the country is running away from a battle, or from the battle, as a matter of fact?
I suppose some black men are running away. I suppose so. I don't know whether I could honestly say all are. And, but I know some who are running away with no specific reason. Except, well, they're angry, or they feel that if this were the case, I could be this, or if that were the case, I could be that. I could be living here if this were not true. But in reality, it wouldn't be true anyhow. So a person like that may be running away from himself even. But I don't think all are. Some actually, honestly, come away from the United States because there are more opportunities for them outside of the United States. Almost all of these artistic personalities, writers, and singers, and these people, in the old days had to leave the United States. You see, eventually they go back, yes, it's true. They're going away, it's not permanent, but they go away and free their minds of the same things we've been talking about, this black psychosis, you see, and try to grow up into themselves. Some come away because they feel they are not able to use their skills and intelligence in a constructive way in the society or the community in which they live in that country.
Now, the Afro-American generally has a very interesting experience. When he leaves America, he's called an American. I've been called an American more often outside of America. Well, I've never really been called an American inside of America. It's always the Negro or the colored American. And I think that's a fault. And I think that's a part of the slavery of the mind, you see.
Is that a liberating experience to be called an American outside the country?
It's a very interesting experience. The first time and I can remember the first time I was called an American. I was in Mexico. It's Americano. And I heard it and it did something to my ear. It tickled my eardrums. American. They didn't say Negro. Then I heard it in Europe once. Then I've heard it many times here. You see. Yes, it is. It's quite a feeling to think that you've lived all of your life in your own hometown, in your own country, and never been called what you are, an American, you see.
But whatever the similarities or differences between black Americans and Ghanaians, our students were constantly challenged like this.
We all know about the black man's struggle in America for freedom. Come back to Africa. There's a real call for back to Africa, that is. So there's no point in saying you would like to stay in America or not. We're all together. It's just a historical accident you were there in America. Well, and we all know you are not wanted.
Okay, look, the first man that died in the Revolutionary War of America was black. In the Revolutionary Army, there were black soldiers. In the War of 1812, black soldiers. World War I, World War II, Korean War, all these wars, there was black men. Black men have fought and died for this land. And I mean, it's not a point that we're not wanted. I mean, this is us. Would you leave this homeland, which was worked for, to come over here? You see, what we have to do is take care of what we got where we're at. Now, now this land has been fought for by the black men. I think it is ours. Now, we're not giving up anything. We're not giving up our land that is there.
Well, you aren't on your own there. In fact, the whites are number you. Well, why don't you come back to Africa, where the real base is for the struggle against the white man? Because you can't stay by your enemy and fight him.
To answer that, if you was born in America and you work in America and you fought for America, it'd be kind of hard to just get up and come to Africa. Everything you fought for is in America.
We, as black men, are proud of being black men. We are not going to run over here and hide because the white racism is so strong over there. We're going to get ourselves together and we're going to change it.
On June 20th, Mattie, Gail, and Steve left for home. A home that still denied them equality with other Americans, but their country nevertheless.